settle in, and let me tell you about a woman named Mathilde Loisel. She lived in Paris, beautiful, restless Paris, in a modest little flat that she despised with every fiber of her being. The walls were too plain, the furniture too worn. The curtains, she felt, were an embarrassment. And yet, she was not an unhappy woman by circumstance, alone. She was unhappy because she believed, deep in her bones, that she had been born for something finer. She could close her eyes and see it so clearly. Grand rooms hung with silk, silver candlesticks, throwing warm light across a long dinner table. Admirers leaning in to catch her every word. She could taste the fantasy. Her husband, Monsieur Loisel, was a decent, quiet clerk. He loved her genuinely and wanted nothing more than to make her smile. But his salary was small, and his world was ordinary. And for Mathilde, ordinariness was its own kind of suffering. She burned for beauty. She ached for elegance. And that ache, my friends, is where our story truly begins. One evening, Monsieur Loisel came home with a look of barely contained excitement on his face. He was holding a small envelope as though it were something precious, an invitation addressed to them both, to a grand ball at the ministry. Now he expected her to be delighted. He had worked to get that invitation. He was proud of it. But Mathilde looked at the card and her face crumpled. What would she wear? She had nothing worthy of such an evening. She would look like a servant among swans. Her husband, bless his patient heart, offered up his savings, money he had quietly set aside for a new hunting rifle, so she could buy a proper dress. She did, and it was lovely. But then, on the eve of the ball, a new despair seized her. She had no jewels, no gems, no glittering thing to set against her throat. And so her husband, gently, wisely, suggested she visit her old school friend, Madame Forestier, a woman of comfortable means. Borrow something beautiful, he said, just for one night. Madame Forestier received her warmly and brought out a flat velvet box full of treasures. Bracelets, brooches, earrings set with colored stones. Mathilde tried them all, turning before the mirror, searching for the thing that felt like her true self, finally made visible. And then she saw it. A necklace. Diamonds, or what glittered like diamonds, arranged in a delicate, shimmering cascade. She clasped it around her neck, and her hands trembled slightly. Her heart lifted. This was it. This was who she was meant to be. Madame Forestier, gracious and generous, told her to keep it for the evening, of course. Mathilde thanked her, embraced her, and went home feeling as though she had been returned to herself. Now, I want you to hold that image in your mind. Mathilde standing at the mirror, the light catching those stones, her eyes bright with a happiness so complete and so fragile, because the best and worst moments in a life often share the very same face. And that night, she was luminous. The night of the ball was everything she had ever dreamed. The rooms blazed with chandeliers. The music rose and swelled and wrapped around everyone like something alive. And Mathilde, Mathilde was radiant. She was the most beautiful woman in that hall, and she knew it. And the knowing made her more beautiful still. Men sought her out. Men asked her to dance. Men stood nearby just to be in the orbit of her. She laughed, she danced, she sparkled. Her husband dozed in an antechamber with other husbands, wrapped in their coats, waiting patiently. And she danced until 4 in the morning. She danced until her feet ached, and her cheeks flushed, and her heart was so full she could barely hold it. When they finally stepped out into the cold, dark street, she wrapped herself in her plain woolen shawl. Plain, so painfully plain against the gown. And they found a carriage, and she leaned back against the seat, still glowing, still perfect. For just a little while longer, just a little while longer, she stood before her mirror to remove the necklace, and her hands went still. The clasp, the chain, nothing was there. Her throat was bare. She searched the folds of her cloak, the pockets of her dress, the floor, the hallway. Monsieur Loisel went out into the pre-dawn streets and retraced every step, checked with the carriage company, went to the police, placed notices in the newspapers. Nothing. Nothing came back. The necklace was gone. Now here's where I will pause, because this moment deserves it. She could have told Madame Forestier the truth. A true friend might have understood. But pride, that old, stubborn, quiet pride, kept Mathilde's lips sealed. Instead, she and her husband searched every jeweler in Paris until they found a necklace that matched a real one, set with genuine diamonds, priced at 36,000 francs. They spent his small inheritance, borrowed the rest at ruinous rates, took on debts from every corner, and bought it. They returned the case to Madame Forestier, who barely glanced at it, and the door of that life closed behind them forever. 10 years. I want you to feel the weight of those 2 words. 10 years. They gave up their flat and moved to a garret. Mathilde dismissed the maid, the one small comfort she had allowed herself, and learned to haul water up the stairs herself. She scrubbed pots. She washed floors on her knees. Her soft hands grew rough and red. She argued with the butcher over pennies. She mended. She pinched. She endured. The beauty that had blazed so brightly at the ball dimmed slowly, like a candle burning down in a cold room. Her hair grew coarse. Her voice grew sharp with exhaustion. Monsieur Loisel worked evenings, kept extra accounts, sold whatever he could. They were grinding themselves down day by day, franc by franc, to honor a debt that had swallowed their youth whole. And Mathilde, sometimes, in the evenings, when the work was done, would think of that night. The chandeliers, the dancing, the warmth of being admired. It felt like something she had dreamed and could no longer be certain was real. At the end of 10 years, the debt was paid. Every last franc. And one Sunday morning, Mathilde was walking along the Champs-Élysées, walking the way poor women walk, slowly, looking at nothing in particular, when she saw Madame Forestier coming toward her. Still beautiful, still elegant, still untouched by time. Mathilde stopped her. The woman did not recognize her at first. When she did, she gasped. Mathilde told her everything. The lost necklace, the replacement, the 36,000 francs, the 10 years of labor that had carved away everything she once was. She said it plainly, even proudly. It was done now, and she had survived it. Madame Forestier stood very still, and then she reached out and took Mathilde's worn hands in hers, and her voice was soft and full of something like grief. She said, and listen now, listen closely. The necklace she had lent her had been paste, costume jewelry, worth at most 500 francs. Now let that settle over you like the cold night air. 10 years, 36,000 francs, for paste and glass. That, dear hearts, is the story of Mathilde Loisel.